You've probably seen it. A buck with the same weird kicker point, the same odd fork, showing up on trail camera year after year after year. Hunters call it antler memory. Like the antler remembers what it looked like last time and just does it again. Here's the thing. That part's actually true, but it's not memory. And there isn't just one cause behind it. There are three, and they behave completely differently. One fades away on its own, and one never does. Every year, a buck drops his antlers and grows a brand new set from nothing. But he's not growing them from nowhere. Every new antler grows out of the exact same spot, a permanent bony stub on the skull called the pedicle. The antler itself is brand new every single year. The pedicle underneath it isn't. It's the one piece of this whole system that never gets replaced, and that's exactly where the story starts. The first cause has nothing to do with injury at all. There's no separate gene for the left antler and the right antler. Genetically, a buck's rack is supposed to come in symmetrical. But researchers estimate roughly half of all wild deer still carry genes for stickers, extra forks, or odd tine counts. The catch is those genes usually don't show up until a buck has some age on him. So an old high country buck suddenly throwing an extra fork out of nowhere might just be his own genetics finally catching up to him. Nothing broken, nothing hurt. The second cause is genuinely strange. Injure a buck's leg, and the deformity doesn't show up on the antler on that same side. It shows up on the antler on the opposite side of his body. It's called the contralateral effect, and it's well documented in deer research. In one whitetail study of 32 bucks with malformed antlers, 22 of them, 69%, trace straight back to an old gunshot wound or a healed leg fracture on the opposite leg. The same mechanism holds for mule deer. Here's the good news on that one. A leg injury deformity isn't permanent. As the leg itself heals, the antler on the opposite side gradually grows back toward normal over the next few growth cycles. Give it 2 or 3 years and that buck is typical again. That's because 2, fully explained, fully temporary. Now here's the one that isn't temporary at all. The real permanent deformities start at the pedicle itself. That fixed, bony base that never gets replaced. And here's what most hunters don't know. You don't even need an outside injury to damage it. Every single year, when the antler casts off, it leaves an open, fracture-like wound sitting right there on the pedicle. That wound is supposed to heal clean. Sometimes it doesn't, and that's where this whole thing actually starts. For a long time, biologists assumed these deformities came from bone fragments healing crooked after a physical break. New research points to something else entirely, a condition now named Pedunculitis Chronica Deformans. It's a chronic inflammation of the pedicle, closely resembling a bone infection, and it can start from that ordinary, yearly casting wound. No outside blow to the head required. The inflammation leaves scar tissue behind, sitting exactly where clean new bone is supposed to regrow. Here's why it repeats identically, year after year. The pedicle is covered in specialized antler-growing stem cells, normally laid out in one clean, continuous layer that builds a uniform antler base. Scar tissue physically breaks that layer apart. Instead of one smooth sheet of stem cells, you get scattered little pockets trapped inside irregular scar tissue. And each surviving pocket still tries to grow antler on its own. That's the same weird fork in the same spot every single year, not memory. A permanent map of where the damage sits. This isn't rare, and it isn't new. In parts of southern Hungary, 40 to 80% of harvested fallow deer show some form of it, and cases have been climbing there for decades, common enough that researchers now consider it endemic to the region. It's been confirmed in red deer and roe deer too, and it's not just a European problem. This exact condition has been documented in mule deer, with confirmed cases out of central Utah and north central Kansas. So if you've pulled sheds off the same non-typical buck 2 seasons running, and there's no leg injury to explain it, this is very likely what you're looking at. Researchers are also finding a real correlation between rising case numbers and mycotoxins, toxins produced by mold, which are becoming more common as the climate warms and growing seasons shift. That link is still active research, not a settled answer, but it's a documented pattern, not a guess. So how do you actually sort these 3 apart in the field? Genetics tends to show up gradually as a buck ages, and it can land on either side. The leg injury type is almost always on the antler opposite an old injury, and it fades out within a couple years. The pedicle type is the one that comes back identical. Same spot, same shape, no leg injury anywhere to explain it, and no sign of fading. Once you know this, a pedicle type non-typical buck stops being random. That funky fork isn't going anywhere, and it isn't a coincidence. It's basically a fingerprint. Find sheds with the same abnormal point 2 years running, and you're very likely not looking at two different bucks with bad luck. You're looking at the same buck twice. That's the whole reason to log every shed you find, not just the trophy ones. A weird fork today is a confirmed ID next season. Drop a pin, score it, note the abnormal point, and let the pattern build itself over time. So, does a damaged antler grow abnormal forever? Sometimes, and now you know exactly why. Genetics shows up and stays. A leg injury shows up and fades. And a damaged pedicle shows up and never lets go, because the damage isn't in the antler at all. It's underneath it, in the one piece of bone that never gets replaced. Same buck, same scar. Not memory. Biology written right into the bone. And now you know how to read it.